The first time I saw my daughter in her black judicial robe, I felt nothing but pride. The courtroom in downtown Chicago was packed that morning, the air heavy with whispers and the scent of polished wood. I sat in the back row, hands folded over the worn leather of my hat, watching as she adjusted her glasses and reviewed the file in front of her. "Court is now in session," she said firmly. "Judge Alina Carter. My little girl. I used to tie her shoelaces before school. I used to sit at the kitchen table helping her memorize spelling words. When she said she wanted to be a lawyer at 8 years old, I told her she could be anything. And she became a judge at 38. I should have known that pride and heartbreak can live in the same chest." The case that morning seemed simple. A homeless man named Thomas Reed stood at the defendant's table, shoulders hunched, hands trembling. He had been charged with trespassing and petty theft, stealing food from a grocery store and sleeping in an abandoned building. The prosecutor painted him as a repeat nuisance. "Your Honor, this man has been warned multiple times. The community is tired of this behavior." Thomas didn't look like a nuisance to me. He looked hungry, exhausted, invisible. When Alina asked if he had legal representation, he shook his head. "Couldn't afford one, ma'am." Something twisted inside me. I raised my daughter to see people, not just their mistakes. The public defender assigned to him barely skimmed the file. It was clear Thomas was just another case number on a busy docket. When Alina asked if the defense had anything to add, the young attorney shrugged lightly. "No additional statements, Your Honor." And that's when I made the mistake that changed everything. I stood up. "Your Honor," I said, my voice echoing more loudly than I expected. "May I speak?" The courtroom fell silent. Alina looked up, and for a brief second her composure cracked. She recognized my voice before she saw my face. "Sir," she said carefully, professional mask sliding back into place, "this is highly irregular. Are you involved in this case?" "I'm involved in justice," I replied, "and that man deserves more than a 5-minute review of his life." A murmur rippled through the room. "Alina," I said before I could stop myself. Her jaw tightened. "Bailiff." "I'm not disrespecting the court," I continued quickly, "but he stole food. When did survival become a crime worse than indifference?" "Sir, you are out of order," she said, voice colder now. "You will sit down immediately." But I didn't. "I taught you better than this," I said softly. "Look at him, he needs help, not punishment." The words hung in the air like smoke. Alina's eyes flickered, pain, anger, conflict, but they hardened just as quickly. "This court will not tolerate disruption," she declared. "Remove him." The bailiff approached me gently. "Sir, please." "I'm not leaving," I said. "If speaking up for someone who has no one is a crime, then I'll accept whatever comes." I saw it then, the moment she chose. "In accordance with court procedure," Alina said, her voice steady but her hands gripping the gavel tightly, "I find this individual in contempt of court." The gavel struck. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "I sentence him to 48 hours in county jail." Gasps filled the room. Thomas stared at me with wide eyes. "Sir, you didn't have to." But I nodded at him. "Somebody does." As they led me away, I looked back at my daughter. She didn't look at me. Jail wasn't what hurt. The metal cot, the cold concrete, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, I could handle that. I'd worked construction my whole life. I knew discomfort. What I couldn't handle was the silence. No call from Alina. No message. 48 hours is long enough to replay every moment of your life. Had I embarrassed her, undermined her authority, crossed a line no father should? Or had she forgotten why she wanted that robe in the first place? When I was released, I didn't expect her to be there. But she was. Still in her suit, hair pulled back tightly, standing by her car in the gray afternoon light. We stared at each other for a long moment. "You forced my hand," she said finally. "I asked you to see him," I replied. "I saw him," she snapped. "I saw a defendant with prior citations who refuses shelter assistance and ignores court orders. And I saw a human being." Her breath trembled. "You think this is easy for me?" she said. "Every decision I make is scrutinized. If I show favoritism, especially to my own father, I lose credibility, I lose authority, everything I worked for." "I didn't ask for favoritism," I said quietly. I asked for compassion. She looked away. Do you know what happens if a judge allows emotional interference? She continued. Appeals, dismissals, chaos. Maybe what needs dismissing is a system that punishes poverty, I answered. The wind cut between us. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she said something I didn't expect. I stayed late after court. I waited. I reviewed his file again, really reviewed it. And I contacted a community outreach program, arranged temporary housing, addiction counseling, a job placement referral. Her voice softened. I suspended his sentence pending compliance. My throat tightened. You did that? Yes. Why? She looked at me then, not as a judge. As my daughter. Because you're right, she whispered, he needed help. Tears blurred my vision. I couldn't say it in that courtroom, she added. If I bend the rules publicly, I risk everything, but there are ways to uphold the law and still serve justice. I nodded slowly. I'm sorry I embarrassed you, I said. I'm sorry I hurt you, she replied. We stood there, the space between us, no longer a courtroom but a bridge. I was proud of you that day, I told her. For jailing you. For standing firm under pressure, even when it was me. A small smile tugged at her lips. You always said integrity costs something. Doesn't mean it doesn't sting. She laughed softly, the sound breaking the last of the tension. Dinner, she asked. As long as I'm not held in contempt for ordering dessert. She rolled her eyes the same way she did at 16. As we walked to her car, I realized something important. Justice isn't always loud. Sometimes it looks like a gavel striking down. Sometimes it looks like quiet work done after hours. And sometimes it looks like a father reminding his daughter why she chose the bench in the first place. That day she sent me to jail. But she also reminded me that the little girl who once cried over stray cats in the rain was still there, just wearing a robe now. And I couldn't have been prouder.